Hey there, baseball fans. Nathan Rohde and Shooter Hunt here with the return of Coffee and Curveballs after a week off. Shooter, I'm back down at sea level. Been off the grid for the last week or so, but ready to talk some baseball because it sounds like some things were going on while I was away.
Oh, yeah, it's great to have you back, Roadshow. Awesome stuff that you did for First Cancer, going out there to the Grand Tetons. Looks like you had a great time, judging by the pictures, but kudos to you for that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, my wife and I and a couple of our climbing friends went out to Grand Teton in Wyoming and completed the summit of the peak at just under 14,000 feet. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. When we came down off the mountain, if you couldn't tell already, shaved my head for Versus Cancer. So it was all for a good cause, raising money for research for pediatric brain cancer. So if you're interested in donating, please head to my Twitter profile. There's a link in there in the profile that you can check out, or hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions. Half of our funds go to the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, and the other half will go to Duke Children's Hospital so that they can make lives for these children and their families a lot easier and work toward finding a cure. So, but let's talk some baseball. While I was away, we were working on it before I left, and you guys released it while I was out west. But the 2019 overall rankings have been updated. It's on the website, prepbaseballreport.com. We've done a podcast on it with Sean Duncan talking about a lot of the players, kind of broke down the top 5 guys and then talked about a few others. But Shooter, let's real quick, we won't go in depth with these guys because we talked about them on the podcast, plus everybody should know them by now. But the top 5 is, number 1, Bobby Witt Jr., shortstop out of Texas, son of Bobby Witt Sr., former big leaguer. Number 2, we've got left-hander Hunter Barco, committed to Florida, from Florida. And then at number 3 is an electric right-hander out of Georgia in Daniel Espino, a guy I've yet to see, but Sean Duncan saw him at the Under Armour game, and it sounded pretty good, running into the high 90s. I think he was up to 99. Riley Green, another Florida recruit,
hits,
left-handed hitter, top bat in the class right now. And then finally, we got right-hander Brennan Malone, who's from North Carolina, committed to North Carolina, but he's actually making the switch and going to be down at IMG Academy in the spring down in Florida. But that is your top 5 for the 2019 overall rankings as it stands right now.
Yeah, some movement. Bobby Witt Jr. getting back in that one spot. Just his consistency just does not end.
No.
And just has that big league feel to him. It's become a household name in the amateur baseball scene. And even those guys behind him were, you got Barco, left-hander in the low 90s. Espino running it up there with the heat. Riley Green just hits from the left-hand side. Home runs, doubles, doesn't matter. He can hit. And then Brendan Malone just looks the part. I mean, it's a physical frame. He's up there in the mid-90s, and he's going to continue to get better. So real good-looking top 5, and we'll see what else happens over the course of East Coast Pro and area code moving forward.
Yes, we sure will. So to get into a little bit more depth on some of these 2019s, let's look at some guys that are some risers in the class. And Shooter, you've got 5 guys for us from pretty much all over the country. We got Georgia, Arizona, Virginia, Iowa, even a Florida guy on there. So fill us in on some of these guys in the 2019 class that are trending upward.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the top 10 and top 20 guys, so I thought we'd take some pieces of guys who've been notable risers and are new to the list. First guy is an uncommitted one out of Georgia, Nolan Letzkus, potential two-way guy, but on the mound was 88 to 92 at a PBR Tennessee event recently. And it's athletic, 6 foot, wiry frame. The arm work's clean and loose. Also throws both a slider and a curveball. They kind of blend a little bit at times, but they're thrown firmly, about 79 to 82. But he's a guy who's uncommitted now, but I'm sure a lot of coaches are going to want to see moving forward. Nick Wallerstedt popped up at the PBR Arizona top prospect games. And by popped up, I mean he was pumping 94. He is a quarterback recruit as well, 6'3", 185, really good-looking athlete. Was a 6'7" runner on the day, too. Also swings the bat a little bit, but the fastball is real. Because of the football, there may be some rawness of just not as much time on the mound, but he's a guy that is opening eyes right now. And, I mean, with that athleticism, what's not to like about him?
No doubt. Yeah, he's a guy that, as soon as Jordan Banfield, our guy in Arizona, saw him, he hit me up right away, and he was like, dude, I've got one of my top guys in Arizona, just saw him, up to 94, like you said. So hopefully I'm hoping to get a chance to see him at some point this summer or fall. So I'll have to keep my eyes peeled for him on the circuit.
So those two guys are uncommitted right now in that 19 class, so they'll have a lot of colleges all over them. And then I got 3 committed guys who made some rises throughout the spring and into the summer going into these new rankings. Griffin Agee out of Virginia, he's a Virginia recruit. 6'5", long-limbed, lean left-hander, up to 90. It's a loose stroke, almost sling-like coming in there. Also throws a shorter 1.7 breaking ball. But there's a lot to like about the frame moving forward. And, I mean, up to 90, it's going to continue to rise for him as he adds weight and grows into those long limbs. Another guy that I really like that we talked about on the podcast some, Connor Walsh out of Niceville High School in Florida. He's a shortstop, committed to Ole Miss, about a 6'5", 6'6" runner, really uses his athleticism and speed well on the infield at shortstop, and then can also swing at the plate from the right side. Really exciting athlete. He's going to get a lot of looks because he's on the same team as Reese Hines down there at Niceville. So scouts are going to be in there, and I'm sure they're going to see him. As I followed along all spring, Connor Walsh just got hits every game that I was following.
Yeah, that's a nice little one-stop shop for scouts in the spring at Niceville High School with Reese Hines, and then take a look at Connor Walsh as well. And provide some protection in the order, too. I don't know exactly what the lineup is for Niceville High School, but having a guy like Walsh and Hines, I would assume, somewhere near the top of that lineup, that's a nice little lineup to have.
You got to pitch to somebody in that. And then finally, one more right-hander that we got to see at the Future Games last year out of Iowa, Harrison Cook. He committed to Kentucky during the fall, was up to 88 at the Future Games, but he's 6'5", about 175 pounds or so. There's a lot of room to fill out, but he's been up to 90 recently. Really good 3-pitch mix that he throws for strikes. Looks every bit the part of a starter moving forward, and he's starting to see those incremental jumps. And, I mean, with some added strength over the next year, I think he's a guy that you could hear some more draft talk about going forward. But those 5 right there are guys who were risers. There are a lot more. We're going to be doing another set because we're moving into the draft rankings after area codes. So I'm sure, Rody, we'll sit down and do some of that stuff together and hopefully expand this list to 500 the next time.
Yeah, we certainly will. Obviously, you get a little bit more extended look at guys at area codes and, obviously look at some of those guys that are outside of PBR states right now where we've got pretty much the whole country covered except for a couple of spots. There's some good talent in the Northwest this year. So after area codes, we'll be able to incorporate that a little bit more. Just want a few more looks because, we don't, small sample sizes make things difficult, and we want to make sure we have a somewhat of a complete picture on these guys to evaluate them fairly. So we'll go into area codes and we'll come out and probably have another update and then hold off until the end of the fall before we do another one. But certainly looking forward to that. But speaking of area codes, it's coming up in a couple of weeks. Shooter, what is next on your schedule?
Well, I am currently scrambling looking for my flights and my emails to Tulsa for a PBR Limited Series. Andy Urban put together some really big-time teams from the Midwest that I'll be covering this weekend very closely, all leading up till Tuesday when I'm flying into Indianapolis, making my way up to Grand Park. Future Games are here. Yes,
they are certainly. So it's a lot of prep work for me the next week. While you're in Tulsa, I'm going to be getting ready for the Future Games, kind of mapping out who guys that I need to watch and focus on. We'll have the road show up there, so highlights from the Future Games. And obviously, Shooter, you and I will roll straight into the area code games. So I'm working on getting our roster packets and everything printed out and ready to go so we can tackle that like we tackle everything else. So looking forward to seeing you in person instead of on the other side of a computer screen, man.
Hey, I mean, with this limited series rolling right into the future games, right into area codes, what more could we ask for? I'm all set.
No doubt, no doubt. They call it the dog days of summer, but we still got plenty of action coming up here soon. So we'll be sure to cover it as we always do, and you'll be able to find plenty of that content on prepbaseballreport.com. But as always, for Shooter Hunt, I'm Nathan Rohde. This is Coffee and Curveballs, and until next time, we'll see you guys at the ballpark.